The wind howls across the barren Omaheke Desert. The sun is merciless, a white blaze in a sky without mercy. A young Herero mother stumbles forward, clutching her infant to her chest. Her lips are cracked. Her eyes, once full of life, are glassy. Behind her, dozens of others collapse onto the sand. Ahead, there is no water, only the distant shimmer of a mirage. From behind, the sound of horses. German soldiers in field-grey uniforms close in, rifles slung across their shoulders. Their leader, General Lothar von Trotha, raises a rolled piece of paper and shouts in a sharp, cold voice. Within the German frontier, every Herero, with or without a rifle, with or without cattle, will be shot. I take no more women or children. I will drive them back to their people or have them shot. October 2, 1904. This is not a battle. This is extermination. Welcome to Voice from the Colonized, where we uncover the silenced histories and untold truths of people crushed under the weight of empire. If you care about unmasking the real legacy of colonialism, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so these stories are never erased again. And if you want to help us keep this work alive, links to support us financially are in the description. Today, we uncover one of the most chilling episodes of colonial brutality, Germany's genocide in Namibia, the first officially documented genocide of the 20th century. The road to bloodshed background. Before the bullets and the desert, there was land and greed. In the late 19th century, European powers were in a feverish race to carve up Africa. The 1884-85 Berlin Conference, called by Germany's Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, set the rules for the so-called scramble for Africa. Germany, a new empire hungry for prestige, claimed German Southwest Africa, today's Namibia. The land was not empty. It was home to the Herero and Nama, proud pastoralist peoples whose wealth was measured in cattle. To them, land was not just property, it was life. Colonial rule and rising tensions. When German settlers arrived in the 1890s, they brought rifles, iron discipline, and a belief in white racial superiority. They saw the Herero and Nama not as equals, but as labor to be exploited and obstacles to be removed. Land was seized through fraudulent treaties or outright theft. Many Africans were driven into semi-desert regions, while the best grazing lands were fenced off for white farms. Life under German rule was suffocating. Africans could not own firearms without permits. Punishments for resisting orders included public flogging, branding, and forced labor. Herero women were vulnerable to sexual violence from colonial troops and settlers. A German settler wrote home in 1895, "The native understands only force. One must treat them with the whip to keep them in order." By the early 1900s, tensions had reached a breaking point. The Herero Revolt. In January 1904, Chief Samuel Maharero led his people in rebellion. They attacked military posts and settler farms, killing over 100 Germans in the opening weeks. Maharero sent letters to neighboring chiefs urging unity. "Let us die fighting, rather than die like dogs." But he also instructed his men not to harm missionaries or Boers, hoping to avoid unnecessary enemies. Initially, the Herero had some success, but Berlin responded with overwhelming force, sending General Lothar von Trotha, a man whose reputation for brutality had been forged in colonial wars in East Africa and in China during the Boxer Rebellion. The Battle of Waterberg. A trap. In August 1904, von Trotha surrounded the Herero at Waterberg Plateau. Thousands of men, women, and children, along with their cattle, gathered, hoping to break through German lines to safety. Instead, von Trotha executed a deadly trap. The German army attacked with modern rifles, machine guns, and artillery. Survivors fled east, directly into the waterless Omaheke Desert. Wells were poisoned, Waterholes were guarded. Any Herero trying to return was shot. The Extermination Order. On October 2, 1904, von Trotha issued his infamous proclamation. Any Herero found within the German frontier, armed or unarmed, with or without cattle, shall be shot. I take no more prisoners. This is my final decision. It was a written, public, and unapologetic declaration of genocide decades before the word existed. The Nama joined the fight. The fate of the Herero did not deter the Nama. In October 1904, under the leadership of Hendrik Witbooi, they launched their own uprising. Using guerrilla tactics, they harassed German patrols and supply lines. But von Trotha applied the same merciless tactics, burning villages, destroying crops, and sending captured Nama to camps where death was almost certain. Concentration camps of death. By late 1904, survivors of both uprisings were being herded into concentration camps, a term the Germans themselves used. The most notorious was Shark Island, off Lüderitz. A barren, windswept rock surrounded by icy Atlantic waters, it became a place of slow death. Prisoners slept on the ground without shelter, were fed starvation rations, and forced into exhausting labor. German doctors, including Eugen Fischer, used prisoners as human subjects for racist science. Skulls were sent to Berlin to prove African inferiority. A survivor later testified, "We were treated like animals. People died every day. The soldiers laughed at our suffering." Death rates in some camps reached 70%. The human cost, between 1904 and 1908, an estimated 65,000 Herero, 80% of their population, and 10,000 Nama, half their people were annihilated. Those who lived were left landless, their cattle gone, forced to work for German settlers under brutal conditions. Generations of Herero and Nama identity, wealth, and cultural continuity were destroyed. Silence and denial. For decades, Germany refused to acknowledge the genocide. Colonial veterans were honored, not condemned. Schoolbooks celebrated pioneers who had tamed the land. Namibia remained under foreign rule. First Germany, then South Africa under apartheid until independence in 1990. The fight for justice. In 2001, Herero chiefs filed a lawsuit in the United States against Germany and German corporations like Deutsche Bank and Vormannlein, accusing them of benefiting from genocide. In 2015, Germany formally began negotiations with Namibia. In May 2021, it officially recognized the events as genocide and pledged $1.1 billion in development aid over 30 years. But Herero and Nama leaders rejected the offer, insisting that reparations, not aid, were owed. Echoes in history. Historians like Jürgen Zimmerer have argued that Namibia was a blueprint for later Nazi policies, including concentration camps, medical experiments, and racial extermination. Some officers who served in Namibia went on to have roles in the Third Reich. The genocide in Namibia is not a distant colonial tragedy. It is a link in the chain of racial violence that defined the 20th century. Quotations from history, from the survivors. We had no more cattle. We had no more land. We had nothing. We were prisoners in our own home. From German colonial officials, a policy of absolute terrorism and cruelty was and is my policy. I annihilate the rebellious tribes with streams of blood. Von Trotha. From historians. This was the dress rehearsal for the Holocaust. Jürgen Zimmerer. Conclusion. Refusing to forget. The sand of the Omaheke Desert still hides the bones of the dead. The descendants of the Herero and Nama still live with landlessness, poverty, and the shadow of historical erasure. This genocide was deliberate. It was not excess or tragedy, it was state policy. And remembering it is not optional. It is an act of justice. This is Voice from the Colonized, where we speak the truths empires tried to bury. If this history matters to you, like, share, and subscribe. so the voices of the oppressed are never silenced again. And if you want to help us continue this work, the links to support us financially are in the description. History is not just what happened. It is what we choose to remember. And we must remember this.